welcome everyone in as we finally can start up the Plus chapter, which I think probably be able to do in maybe like about 3 sessions, but we'll see. But anyway, feel free to sit back, relax, and get comfy as we begin Higurashi When They Cry How Plus. Oh. Sorry, hold on. I goofed. Okay, that doesn't really help you a lot. Excuse me. Hold on. Alright, start off with Higurashi When They Cry Outbreak. Keiichi and the others face a brand new tragedy. The mysterious virus and the panic it creates are such laughable sights. The difficulty is average. Is this the beginning of the end, or has it already reached its conclusion? It is your job to bear witness to that. This is a work of fiction, and its resemblance to actual persons or organizations is entirely coincidental. June 27th, Monday, Day 1. This is the Japan's Ground Self-Defense Force. As of 400 today, we have quarantined the Hidemizawa region and other surrounding regions as designated by the prefectural governor. We ask all the residents of these areas please remain indoors and await further instructions. Please use your television, radios, and the disaster management radio system to stay informed. You will not be permitted to leave this district until we can confirm it is medically safe to do so. We repeat, you will not be permitted to leave this district. Any who do not comply will be dealt with according to national law. So everyone, we must ask that you please return to your homes and remain calm. It was really hard to hear that rough voice over the roar of the camouflage helicopter. Have discovered the outbreak of a previously unknown virus. Virus classified as one of the most hazardous of viruses by the World Health Organization. Several government sources have already confirmed an offer from the American government to provide emergency assistance in developing a vaccine. We believe our government has already begun preparations to accept their aid. This virus has an incubation period stretching 30 to 50 days, and they are scrambling to secure enough vaccine for the 2,000 quarantined residents. At the present time, all phone lines to Hidemizawa district are flooded, and reaching any within is nearly impossible. The current congestion is making it difficult for the prefecture's disaster prevention center to ascertain the exact situation. Furthermore, a ban on tap water and well water has been put in place. Please do not consume any water except that provided by the SDF's water trucks. In addition, illegally parking on any roads will hinder the disaster relief efforts. Please relocate your vehicles at once. Representative Unabara of the Democratic Socialist Party has criticized the avoidance of proper procedures in ordering the dispatch of SDF disaster relief, strongly voicing his opinion that this is a step backward toward militarism, which could lead to further isolation of our nation within the Asian political community. This is the XX Prefecture Disaster Prevention Center. At 1200 a day, we shall conduct simultaneous medical examinations at the following locations. Please follow the instructions of your town or neighborhood council as you assemble there. Please make certain you get examined unless you have extenuating circumstances. If you notice any symptoms of illness, you must. This is the JGSDF. Order of your prefectural governor, this region has been quarantined to prevent the further spread of disease. You are not permitted to leave the quarantine zone. We promise to secure food, water, and other daily necessities. Electricity and communication systems for everyone. Please continue to remain calm. All of a sudden one day, the peaceful boredom of everyday life was shattered. I doubt anyone woke up today expecting to be any different from an ordinary early summer morning. The sky was just as blue as ever, and the sun rose just as it always did. Yet the helicopters flying at low altitudes had their speakers blaring, and the sight of traffic blocked up at the blockade in the main road into the city was enough to let everyone know that this morning was anything but normal. By the time it was broadcast on the morning news, the confusion had already settled down to a degree. The residents of Hinamizawa couldn't act like this was all happening in some distant city as they listened to the emergency broadcasts, because there was no doubt that this emergency was happening in the very town we lived in. I stirred restlessly in my bed like I usually do before actually crawling out, and once I came down to our dining room, I found my parents glued to the television, which is where I learned the news, peeking over their shoulders. I wonder just how many villagers muttered the same thing I did at first. What? What's going on? Keiichi, it's awful. They discovered a horrible disease here at Hinamizawa and have quarantined the whole village. This is terrible. When do you think This is terrible. You think they're going to let us go? I need to head out for a meeting tomorrow for the event in Osaka. Quarantined? Then we can't go into town either? Looks like it. They said they provide food, but this is a real pain. Barely have anything in our refrigerator since today is when they have that special sale down in Okonomiya. More importantly, what is this virus anyway? It has to be pretty dangerous if they're quarantining the whole region, right? What's going on here? Are we infected too? Shh, they're explaining on TV right now. Once the initial signs appear, the following symptoms develop over the following week. Our family. No, I'm sure everyone in the village went speechless as that footage played. A small African village was completely annihilated, and the terrible spectacle was almost too gory to look at. Given the unrecognizable state of the resulting corpses, the people out of this dangerous reach were being irresponsible. Satisfying their urge to spectate, watching this footage of the harm dealt by this mysterious, heretofore unknown virus. But for those of us directly faced with this crisis, it was far too real and far too terrifying. I glanced up at the clock and saw that it was long past time for me to meet up with Reina. I was already late. Normally, Reina would have to come to pick me up directly if it was over 5 minutes past our meeting time, but that didn't happen this morning. Of course not. I'm sure Reina's also glued to the TV along with our family right now. Either that or maybe she's currently infected with this mysterious virus and is suffering under its symptoms. The moment that thought reached my mind, I started worrying about not just her, but Mion, Satoko, and Rika-chan as well. I ran for a telephone in the hallway on impulse and tried dialing a number, but I didn't even hear the usual dial tone. It made sense. The whole village and the population of those outside with relatives in the area probably went for their receivers all at once, just as I had. It was reasonable to assume that the phone lines couldn't keep up. That left me wanting to visit them to make sure of their safety in person. The whole village could be full of pockets of that dangerous virus. Would it be suicide to barge outdoors in that case? Keiichi, come here, quickly! My dad was just coming out of his atelier. His arms were full of cardboard boxes. I could see they were packed full of duct tape wrapped in unopened vinyl bags. Apparently my dad had them in stock to use with his paintings or something. I'd even questioned why he'd grabbed duct tape in this emergency. I understood immediately why my dad was calling for me to help. Ichi, you cover the second floor. Shut the windows tight and seal them up with duct tape. Our air conditioner might be connected to the air outside too. Cover the AC vents with newspaper, then seal them up with duct tape. I'll cover the first floor. Your mom can cover up the kitchen. There, it's too late for any of that. Duct tape won't do anything to keep microorganisms out. It'll still make a small difference. Just help already. Hello, Popcat. Welcome in. Or a vest and tie daily. Well, you always see me wearing a vest and tie daily. My mom was right. She was being relatively calm given the situation. Viruses are tiny organisms smaller than even dust, so it was pretty delusional to think that sealing up openings with store-bought duct tape could keep them out. At the same time, I understood how my dad was feeling too. It was just so sudden, even if there were no scientific backing to his beliefs, even though it wouldn't make any difference. He still had to try and do something to stop it. That would comfort his mind far more than just sitting in front of the television. Whenever my mom, oddly stubborn, and my father, wildly emotional, start arguing like that, I go up to the second floor to avoid them. That's right. I knew we couldn't really do anything to prevent infection, but I shared my desire to do something about it, even if it was just for my own peace of mind. I looked out the window. The grand sight before me was a view I took pride in, one that moved me deeply when I first arrived here. The magnificent scenery itself was the same view as always of Hinamizawa's beautiful traditional buildings. Yet today, there was no sign of any villagers. I couldn't spot a single villager out working the paddy fields. I was certain that the stubborn old farmers wouldn't do their work even today. But that silly hope of mine was shattered. To be honest, that made me realize I was hoping to find solace in the sight of them carrying on like normal. Even the most stubborn of village elders weren't out working their field. Maybe they were afraid of getting infected with the virus. Or maybe they were afraid of another villager thinking they were infected instead. In that sense, my dad's amateur idea of trying to keep the virus out with duct tape might be the more normal response. Instead of questioning its effectiveness like my mom was doing. The village was shrouded in a silent fear. The only sounds to be heard were the voices of the disaster management radios and the roar of the SDF's helicopters. Those sounds only served to making the silence more chilling. Normally, the chorus of the cicadas would be starting around this time. But their chorus didn't reach the villager's ear. This June 28th. Tuesday, day 2. With the water supply shut off, we couldn't use our flush toilet. The SDF relief squad had set up portable bathrooms. But since my dad was strongly opposed to using them, the Maibara family continued to use our flush toilets without any running water. We had kept our bathwater to use for laundry, so we were managing by scooping that into the basin and flushing it away. My dad, the excrement of disease cures would just be full of viruses. So we refused to let our family go out and use the public bathrooms, saying that was the same as going out to get ourselves infected. We didn't have that much water left in our bathtub, though. so we couldn't keep using a flush toilet without water forever. To make matters worse, since the virus involved here has a 1-month incubation period, it wasn't hard to imagine the quarantine around Hinamizawa would last even longer than that. By my mom's quick estimate, the quarantine was likely to last 3 months. 3 whole months. It was the end of June, so the quarantine wouldn't be lifted until the end of September, or maybe even October. It's gonna be fun to see what happens when I upload this to YouTube. Upload the VOD of this to YouTube. Have to see if I get a community note or something like that. That meant that the whole summer of 1983 was going to be cut away from Hinamizawa. It was very tragic for us. In the first day, we were caught up in the fear that the virus was everywhere outside of our house. But then the water trucks and relief supplies arrived thanks to the SDF. Once their doctors started their group examinations, we couldn't afford to stay completely shut inside any longer. Some people, like my dad, still refused to go outside even then. But they steadily started coming outside over time, both to secure necessities and assuage their fear of infection by having the doctors examine them. The same went for me. I couldn't stand staying cooped up in our creepy house with its duct tape shutters, silently watching the television with no one but my family around. I was much more anxious to go outside and check on my friends' well-being. My dad continued to be stubborn about holding in the house, so my exasperated mom and I went to the group examinations together. The town council our family fell under had decided to conduct the examinations in the schoolyard. Lots of villagers had gathered there, and we were all lined up according to the divisions used for the council's newsletters. The disparity between the villagers in their normal clothes and the doctors covered head to toe in a white raincoat-like suit was very unsettling. It was clear evidence that they suspected us all of being carriers of the virus. Kichi-kun! Reina! Thank goodness you're safe. Yeah, I just ran into Mi-chan. She was looking healthy too. Really? What about Satoko and Rika-chan? They're in a different division, so I think they had to go somewhere else. I've tried calling them a few times, but I can't get through. I tried calling several times too, but I had no luck at all. I guess the phone lines are just too congested to handle it. I heard a rumor that there was someone in a car who wouldn't listen to the SDF's directions, so they had an accident and crashed into a telephone pole, cutting the lines out completely. But another person said the government had switched them over to authorized use only, so the average citizen can't use them right now. Long story short, everyone's confused and the information's all mixed up, huh? Right after I said that, someone smacked me hard on the back. It was Mion. Hey, it's a girl, yay! Kei-chan. Great to see you're safe. And that's my line. I'm glad to see you're safe too. Mion made a big show of wiping her tears away, enjoying our reunion after only a scant few days. There's no need to explain at this point, I think, but the old customs here meant Hinamizawa was governed by 3 ancient clans known as the Three Families. Right now, Mion's family, the Sonozaki family, was the head of that organization. According to Mion, the Sonozaki family was already taking the initiative and leading the unified town council to try and settle the whole situation. They were also working together with the government and the SDF, so they had information that regular villagers didn't even know about. Mion, be blunt with us. What's going on? Has this virus really infected all of the villagers? According to this morning's explanation, the likelihood of that is pretty slim. From what they've said, the infected showed up over in Takatsudo, and hardly anyone lives over there. Since the quarantine was set up so quick, they're saying they don't think it's reached the Hinuizawa area yet. Once they can confirm everyone in Hinuizawa is clean, then they're hopeful that they can start lifting the quarantine in stages. I hope that's true. Feel bad for those living in Takatsudo. It'll be nice if Hinuizawa's quarantine ends sooner. That was when Mion gave us a sharp look. Then she grabbed my head and Reina's, pulling us in close to her own. Then she whispered so quietly that only we could hear. But I don't think we can be optimistic that optimistic, actually. I'm able to use the radio myself, you know. I modified mine to pick up transmissions from the police and the SDF. From what I'm hearing there, this isn't that simple. After all, Hinuizawa is a pretty isolated village, all by itself here on a mountain range. They don't have a clue how this virus managed to transmit itself here from overseas. So far, none of the infected people the government has discovered have any history of traveling out of the country. So now they're investigating the travel history of everyone in the village, wondering if there might be another carrier. So, you're saying that someone got infected while in a different country and brought this back to our village? Yeah. Apparently there's some leeway in its incubation period. They can't rule out the chance that whoever brought it here is still incubating the disease. Also, there's no guarantee that the person ever traveled abroad at all. There's still a chance they got infected when they came into contact with the carrier from outside the village. By my guess, the quarantine zones won't be limited to just Hinuizawa. Worst case is the quarantine could extend to the prefecture, or even to this whole part of the country. How can this be? Also, this is just between us, but there's talk that this one might be different from the African killer virus they mentioned on TV. What do you mean? I'm not sure either. So in the chatter I'm picking up on the radio suggests that they suspect this whole virus crisis might be caused by an endemic disease native to Hinuizawa. Do you mean some killer virus has been hiding in Hinuizawa for years? I'm not sure either. The only thing I do know is that there's an old legend still passed on around here that talks about something impure rising from the swamp and attacking the village. Makes you wonder whether something's risen up out of there again. But Mi-chan, if that's true, then we can rest easy. I mean, the village wasn't wiped out all those years ago, right? Which means it's far less lethal than the virus they're talking about on TV that wipes out whole villages. During the mists of old Onagafuchi, anyone possessed by the impurity from the swamp became a demon. In the end, the villagers couldn't do anything and they were at their wits' end until Oyashiro-sama descended before them. Which means the village couldn't escape that disaster until a miracle occurred. Exactly. For that miracle, the village would have been wiped out. Seemed there were a lot of older villagers who believed this whole virus commotion was Oyashiro-sama's curse. I could see them here and there going through rosaries and offering prayers up as they begged for forgiveness. That commotion would settle down if Rika-chan, the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, would just deny that it's the curse. My granny is trying to explain to the people from the SDF right now. Well, I doubt outsiders can understand what Rika-chan means at this village. Yeah, the superstitions aside, would be a relief to see Rika-chan and Satoko myself. That's right. Hinamizawa has a unique religion that worships a guardian deity known as Oyashiro-sama. Central to that faith was the legend of Oyashiro-sama's curse. So there were a lot of villagers conflating that curse with the current commotion. That was why everyone wanted to see Rika Furude. It was considered to be Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation, alive and healthy. And hear her proclamation that this commotion had nothing to do with Oyashiro-sama. It was the first emergency situation of this manner that the village had faced. No one had yet to recover from the shock to their heart, and they wanted something to cling to. Japan. So of course they wanted to respond calmly without mulling about in confusion. So many had decided for themselves that as long as they saw Rika Furude safe and sound, then they would regain their composure. That also meant that if they couldn't see Rika Furude, they would remain lost in their superstitions. July 6, Wednesday, day 10. Without school, I'd completely lost my sense for what day it was. The television programming was all that barely maintained my sense of daily life. For the first few days, the television only covered what they dubbed the Hinamizawa virus outbreak and the resulting quarantine. Once the 10th day had passed, the news only mentioned it when something special was happening. As far as the public was concerned, some minister or another hadn't cut his golf game short when the Hinamizawa crisis happened or something. So they quibbled over that, which led to queries into his secretary's salary or something. All completely pointless stuff. So long as it wasn't brought up in the news, society probably deluded themselves into believing the virus crisis was resolved. I couldn't help but realize how coldly society gorged itself on the misfortune of others. We truly live in a society. By this point, most villagers had gotten over their hesitation to go outside, at least to collect supplies and such. Lately, Mion's been wondering if it's not just our village being quarantined, but Okonomi as well. We didn't have to go into town to shop, and some had started joking that it was much easier with water and food all being delivered for free. I'd force a smile at that, but I couldn't shake the sense of entrapment brought on by the quarantine lasting 10 days already. The same went for Mion. She sounded light-hearted and carefree on the surface. Just give me a second. Okay, sorry. The same went for Mion. She sounded light-hearted and carefree on the surface, but Mion couldn't shake the anxiety from her expression either. With the way things were, staying at home wasn't helping. If I was at least talking to someone, I could distract myself. I even started volunteering to help carry the plastic tanks of drinking water. Excited at the chance to see my friends by the water supply. Of course, it wasn't like it was fun, though. We saw each other, we only shared our anxieties. But even so, it was still far better than huddling up under a blanket all by myself. Kei-chan, you look well. Got any strange spots? Pete-chan, that's not funny. Mion, and Reina too. Thank goodness the phones are still out as usual. So seeing you here is a relief. Yeah, lately I've been wishing they'd reopen the school. How? If the school were to reopen, then we could all think back on our peaceful everyday lives, and do our best to pretend everything was fine. But I guess not. If I recall, Chie-sensei lives in Okinomiya, so they can't reopen the school if she can't get there because of the quarantine. Well, it's not so bad since school is closed over this unprecedented disaster. We should take the chance to enjoy living free like this. Mion's personality was truly valuable in times like this. She could get the conversation going easily and make it as light as our usual everyday chatter. But in the end, she brought the conversation back to our worries about our current situation. Oh, Rat, Reina, Kei-chan. Don't get upset, but listen. This is just between us, okay? Mion drew us both behind cover and lowered her voice to a whisper. What? What is it, Mi-chan? Have you learned something new? The SDF gave us a good enough explanation when the quarantine first started, but lately they haven't made any more announcements about the ongoing situation. That meant we were left with nothing but rumors and word of mouth. Since we are further isolated based on how we were divided under the council, the villagers had limited interaction with each other, and even those rumors weren't able to get around well enough. Fortunately enough, our village had a decent number of amateur radio fans, so they were using their radios to contact each other. Mion was one of the people using her radio to check how the other quarantined areas were doing, trying to get a grasp of the full state of Hinabizawa. Well, our phone lines still haven't recovered, so the radios are really crucial in times like these. So did you learn anything? Yes. Well, sound like it's true that Rika-chan's been taken into custody, and no one knows what's going on with her. She took a brief pause after that. Sonozaki family had been strongly requesting that Riki Furuta go around the village, so they could wipe away any fears of Oyashiro-sama's curse, but those demands kept getting ignored. The SDF didn't want a carrier traversing the village and spreading infection, so they kept each council area strictly isolated, and so none of the villagers could find out how Rika Furuta was doing, which only stirred their anxieties up even more. If anything were to happen to her, the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, then that could only mean one thing. The end of the village as passed down in legend. That fear had finally reached its logical conclusion. If they couldn't get information on Riki Furuta, then something had happened to her, and the FCF was trying to cover it up. That fear had made its way into rumor. Everyone denied those rumors, of course, but the only way to get rid of them was for the villagers to see Rika Furuta safe and sound. That wasn't happening, though, so the villagers' collective anxiety was only growing stronger. What do you mean no one knows how Rika-chan's doing? Are you saying Rika-chan got hit by the virus? Shh! You're being too loud. I don't know if it was the virus, but either way, she was taken into custody by the disease control squad, and she hasn't been seen since. No one knows if she's safe. Several different people witnessed her being taken away, so that's certain at least. When did that happen? The day of the quarantine. Satoko-chan? She lives with Rika-chan, so... if Rika-chan fell victim to the virus, then as our housemate, Satoko would have... I don't have any info on that. Figures. The elders of the village may care about Rika-chan. They've never wanted anything to do with Satoko. Do you think Satoko-chan was taken into custody too? Doesn't sound like it. Though I think it's just basic disease control to suspect infection in anyone living with an infected person. From what I'm hearing on the radio, only Rika-chan was taken in. Satoko wasn't, apparently. Also, this part sounds kinda strange, but... Strange. Yeah. So you know how Satoko's parents were in favor of the dam being built, right? Now after where they died in an accident due to Oyashiro-sama's curse? You're talking about that Satoko-chan and the Haojo family are cursed and hated by Oyashiro? Yeah. There's always been a horrible group of people that said living with a cursed person like Satoko would cause her taint to pass on to the holy reincarnation, Rika-chan. Now those people are starting to say this is Oishiro-sama's curse, that Satoko's to blame. What? That's stupid as hell. Those jerks will blame Satoko at the drop of a hat. Of course it's nonsense. The people in the other areas are starting to say they might be able to quell Oishiro's anger by binding up Satoko and sinking her into the swamp. And they're talking like they believe it too. No way. Are we savages now? I thought we were civilized. It's only been a week since our daily routines were broken. We're already talking about drowning people in swamps? Reina's indignation was justified. Thinking back on it, Hinamizawa was possessed by such strange beliefs long before this whole virus commotion. Hinamizawa had never shown any proof it was a civilized land. The people there simply acted that way, but once you tore away the facade, they quickly revealed themselves as adherents to some truly bizarre delusions. Judging from your expression, Mion, you're not going to tell us this was some joke all along, right? Mion's silent and downcast stare affirmed it was true. Of course, I told them they need to calm down over the radio, but they're not listening to me at all. Shit. If Rika-chan's been taken to custody, that means Satoko was currently living in that storage hut all by herself. She's in danger if they try to pull anything, isn't she? True. There's only so much Satoko can do by herself. Better to shelter her in our area, wouldn't it? Reina's suggestion was a good one. If you left Satoko alone like this, those caught up in those wild fantasies might go after her. But whose home should we shelter her in? According to Mion, the rumors that Satoko was already infected with the virus are being spread as though they were true. Word of mouth, that primitive means of communication, was all Hinamizawa had. It was too easy for rumors to work their way into such communication, and because of mass psychology, people convince themselves those statements are true, embellishing them even further until they become established fact. At that point, the truth won't matter. Satoko will effectively become one of the infected. Once that happens, whichever home takes her in will face the same treatment. It went without saying. Mion's home, the Sonozaki family were already on bad terms with Satoko and the Haojo family. It would be extremely difficult for Mion's family to shelter Satoko. But about my family, my mother would probably understand, considering the fact my father is still obstinately refusing to expose himself to the outdoors. I couldn't imagine him taking Satoko in. Yeah, it's impossible for your families. So if we do end up sheltering Satoko-chan, I'll shelter her in my home. Don't worry, I won't let my father voice any objections. I had no idea why, but Reina held control of her family's finances, so if she got serious, she could make her father give in. He said that I couldn't stick my chest out and say my family could too, and I hated that she just assumed it wasn't possible, but I couldn't do anything about that. It's not like that pride would matter in this situation. Alright, if we can make contact with Satoko, we'll tell her to head to Reina's home. I wish I could reach out to her myself, but from what you've told us, Mion, it sounds like you're around Satoko's house is dangerous. That's because there's a lot of strong believers who live around there. But to be honest, Satoko's not the only problem. Depending on how it goes, both of you two could be in trouble too. Mion's eyes grew even sharper, looking back and forth between me and Reina. Even though she was worried about Satoko, the chill in her gaze was enough to shred the naive thought that at least we would be safe. I mentioned this the other day, right? The rumors that this virus might be indigenous to Hinamizawa. Those rumors are starting to gain a lot of traction. Some are even saying every villager's probably been infected for hundreds of years. But that's just crazy. If that were true, then people would have been dying every day. Every day way back when. Well, the ones insisting on that argument have an interesting idea. They're saying that the virus remains stable and harmless so long as you stay in the village. And they go even further, arguing that the families who have lived in this village for many, many years are all born with an immunity that keeps them safe. I don't get it. So what? Are you telling me they're saying that people like Raina and I who moved here from outside are a risk because we don't have that immunity? That's exactly it. They're saying our harmony or whatever with the virus is collapsing because of the people moving into Himizawa. And that's making the virus go crazy in everyone. Nah. You're not telling us you believe such an outrageous idea too, are you, Mi-chan? Of course not. There's no way I'd fall for anything that sounds that crazy. For some reason, everyone else believes it. I don't get it at all. Normally, no one would ever believe such stupid nonsense. But these past few days, those weird ideas and rumors are just being passed around like they're just common sense. I've been listening on the radio since the very first day. Lately, the villagers are believing weirder and weirder stuff. I don't know if it's mental stress or trauma or whatever, but calling it that is optimistic at this point. These lies and rumors are running rampant, but no one is doing anything to stop them. If anyone tries, they could be treated as one of the infected too. It's getting real awful around here. Something's not right with people, so watch yourselves. Raina and I were both left speechless by Mion's desperation. It was clearly a good thing that we weren't able to listen to what she's picked up over the radio. Thrust into these abnormal circumstances, their frustration had reached its peak, and that along with anxieties and fears founded on faith were producing new rumors one after another. But it was steadily approaching the point where someone would have to be sacrificed in order to clear those rumors away. Judging from Mion's expression, we were already approaching that critical moment. That was the moment I first realized it. That there was clear hostility in the way the villagers gave us as we talked to each other. Apparently it wasn't my imagination either. Reina was quick to pick up on that too. Keiichi-kun, protect yourself, okay? Yeah. I don't like being distrusted just because of stupid rumors. It's best not to fuel the fire. Yeah. Reina Kei-chan, you two should avoid going outside unless you have to. So make sure you don't go out alone. And seal your home up tight. If anyone says anything inconsiderate, don't provoke them no matter how frustrated. Got it? The hostile looks I felt from time to time were too much to pretend I just imagined them. The accursed customs of a village that had avoided contact with outsiders for centuries weren't about to be brushed away by a scant few years of civilization. Marina and I could only nod in acknowledgement of Mion's warning. The tense looks clear on our faces. Showa 58 HQ, General Affairs Division, Section 1, E34, June 7, 1983. Director of Disaster Relief, Hinamizawa Region. Evacuation orders, emergency. The Director of Disaster Relief is to evacuate the disaster relief units immediately. During evacuation, units are to follow the direction to the National Institute of Infectious Diseases. Notes. 1. Orders. The disaster relief units will follow the direction to the National Institute of Infectious Diseases and evacuated to the designated zone outside the quarantine. Reason: the routine blood test detected a positive reaction for the type N173 virus in 4 squad members. This proves that the disaster relief unit's current equipment is ineffective at preventing infection. Showa 58 HQ, General Affairs Division, Section 1, E35, Lessman 1983, Commander of the 738th Equipment Test Company. Dispatch orders, emergency. The 738th Equipment Test Company is to deploy immediately with version 13 disease prevention equipment under the commandment of the Director of Disaster Relief, Hinuizawa Region. Notes. Orders. So today, the 738th Equipment Test Company will be placed under the command of the Director of Disaster Relief, Hinuizawa Region. The test company shall follow the Director's orders and deploy on site immediately. Mission. Peacekeeping in the quarantine zone. Remarks. Discharge of firearms will be authorized under the enclosed conditions. July 6, 1983, Alphabet Project Board of Directors, Director of Disaster Relief, Hinuizawa Region. Regarding the N173 virus. This virus has been classified as a Category E neuroparasitic virus. What follows is an explanation of its properties. All the viruses that infect the human nervous system, this one demonstrates extremely strong compatibility with mankind. Also, due to the difficulty in identifying symptoms in the infected, its existence was not confirmed until the modern age. According to an official investigation conducted by the UN in 1948, over 99% of the human species contains this parasitic virus within their brain. Furthermore, it has been pointed out that it is likely that this virus has been with humanity from the beginning. As that all suggests, this virus is extremely well integrated into the human body. The host is unaware of the parasite. This makes the virus very similar to other microbes within the human body, such as Escherichia coli, which is commonly known today. However, the problem with this virus is that we have identified the possibility of this virus interfering with the host brain functions. This virus makes its host amiable to other hosts of the same strain, directs its host to be antagonistic towards hosts of different strains. The UN investigation has discovered several hundred strains that would be classified under this virus. And another shocking fact was just uncovered as well. The distribution map of these strains, oddly enough, matches up with present-day national borders and religious distributions. Furthermore, it's suspected that each strain of this virus is deeply involved in shaping the foundation of its host's behavior and personality. So the theory stands that the unique traits of this parasitic virus are responsible for several tendencies generally attributed to race or nationality. In other words, this virus is theorized to be indirectly responsible for all patterns within society, personalities, and the cultures of different ethnicities and nations. First to uncover the existence of the virus was a German doctor within the Nazi administration, and it is theorized that the discovery led to the administration's massacre of particular peoples. Secret Investigation Committee has identified the possibility that this virus has led man to commit its most heinous atrocities, and they called for the extermination of this virus. The call being held back by the fear that such an objective could trigger ethnic cleansing. As a result, all research on the virus was perpetually prohibited in 1955, and they elected to discard the records of that research. This meant humanity would perpetually embrace this parasite and prohibit the further discovery of its existence as well. However, several countries continue to research the virus on their own in secret. Since there has been no exchange of information between these, the state of the research in other nations is unknown. Here in Japan, a research team was founded in secret by a group of medical schools in the late 1960s. Their research is the foundation for these current studies. America has gotten wind that this virus is the cause of the most recent incident. They will be planning to steal our research, and must not respond to their attempts to claim that research disguised as offers of aid. Furthermore, amongst the strains of this virus, strain N173 is a rare variety which displays extremely dramatic symptoms. As I've already explained, traditionally this virus is extremely compatible with the human body and is totally unnoticeable. Yet the N173 strain causes dramatic alterations to personality within several days of infection. The most significant change is the promotion of anxiety and aggression, yet it retains the unique aspects of this virus, guiding these changes in psychology to occur naturally. The infected residents of the Hinuizawa region already tend to strongly exhibit those tendencies, and have demonstrated the potential to cause certain catastrophes, mass riots, mass murder within short periods of time. Direction of this matter should immediately be given over to the Alphabet Project. As such, it should be carefully investigated as one of our nation's assets. I am confident that research into this matter will contribute to our national interest. Furthermore, the suppression of riots caused by this matter can only be conducted by the Alphabet Board of Directors, which possesses extrajudicial authority. That you will consider these factors for making your decision tomorrow. National Institute of Infectious Diseases, head of Room 13, Iwashi. July 7th, Thursday, day 11. Disturbing atmosphere towards outsiders like the Maibara family grew stronger. There was another change that fanned the anxiety of the villagers. The SDF had been supporting the villagers' unstable lifestyles, so was providing mental support, but they had suddenly disappeared from the village. The elders who hated standing around in long lines before the water supply trucks had already lined up early. But no matter how long they waited, the trucks weren't showing up. First, we made the generous assumption that something had delayed them. The fact that the SDF's deliveries had always been punctual before only worked against them, fanning anxieties even higher. Once it was long past the scheduled delivery time, the morning line grew steadily longer. The anger they felt at the water trucks for not arriving grew into anxiety, and finally into fear. The situation rapidly grew worse. Finally, people began whispering that the SDF had abandoned us. Anyone would be shocked after hearing that rumor. The actions of the SDF were the final dam maintaining the village's sanity. With that dam suddenly removed, it was easy to feel as though the village had been cast out of Japan. However, there were a few villagers who weren't frightened by the SDF's disappearance. They had taken an optimistic view and assumed the quarantine would be lifted. Those people even tried to leave the village. Something strange occurred at the barricades, sealing us off. Instead of the personnel clad in white raincoats that had been manning the barricades before, there were soldiers blocking the path, wearing much tougher-looking camouflage gear. That was more like a spacesuit. They even had an armored car parked behind them, too. Why did the villagers insist on calling them soldiers? Because the guns they carried looked that dangerous. At the very least, none of the SDF members performing release efforts had carried guns. Not only were the soldiers carrying their own guns, but the armored car also had a heavy machine gun stationed at its top hatch, and they aimed its muzzle at the villagers without hesitation. After aiming, they issued a warning, too. This is it, the JGSDF. You are not permitted to leave the quarantine zone. Please return to your homes at once. Seeing and hearing that made them certain. Circumstances had changed. The commotion about this dangerous virus had progressed to the point where it was beyond the SDF's control. So they abandoned providing aid to the village and were trying to seal it away. That gave way to anger at the nation who abandoned their relief efforts, and even greater fear at the idea that things had progressed that poorly. The villagers tried demanding explanation of affairs from the soldiers, but they fired live ammo without remorse, intending to intimidate, and announced that they would target their legs next if they did not leave immediately. The villagers then scattered like spiders and fled back to the village. Their story grew exaggerated, and people started saying some of them were actually shot and wounded or even dead, causing even further turmoil. Actually, there's still a chance the part about morning fire was all made up too, but there's no way to verify that anymore and no need to, because that story wasn't being proven false, so it had already become truth. On top of that, some kind of jamming wave was emitted from somewhere, suddenly making the radios useless, leaving word of mouth as the only means of communication, which increased the turmoil even farther. That day, the first gunshot rang out in the village. We couldn't know for sure if the soldiers trapping us had fired on a villager like the rumors suggested. Or some villager had fired their hunting rifle. But as that gunshot roared through the village, the whole population fell away from the law and order of civilized Japan. The town council used their network to reach out and explain there was a mistake in the organization of relief efforts on the SDF side, and that due to the mistake, it would be some time before the relief efforts resumed. They also asked the villagers to help one another until that time. Had that message been sent out before such great anxiety spread throughout the village, then they might have been able to improve things a little. It was all too late. Though the SDF had ceased supplying food and water, every house had at least some stored up. However, no one knew how long this delay of provisions would last. The noxious, heated air permeating the village was steadily robbing people of their sanity. Fearing that some insurgent might descend upon them in search of food, the shopping district had banded together and armed all the shops, forming their own neighborhood watch. Barricades taken from the dam site were lined up at the entrance to the shopping district. You're closed indefinitely. If you have no visitor, you may not set foot within. Still insist on entering, then please discuss it with us on a case-by-case basis. Read the sign they posted up where the residents of the shopping district took their turns standing watch with hunting rifles. There was also another small flyer beside it. Those living in Takatsudo, please go away. That one was based on the rumors of the infected in Takatsudo. However, as the rumors continued to grow, there would likely be more signs posted next, it prohibiting other regions as well. For a moment, we thought we might be able to have more interaction, now that the SDF was no longer quarantining us separately, but the youth groups in each town quickly took up that mantle of isolation. Rin believed that their area had yet to become infected, and they could remain safe if they kept out people from the other areas. Misawa was fundamentally a farming village, but there were several people who made their living through hunting since long ago, so the number of hunting rifles wasn't exactly small. Because of that, those who owned one volunteered to serve as guards. The number who volunteered directly translated into that town council's power. Either that, or it became their power to blur the line between fantasy and reality in order to realize their delusions of persecution. That day, it was July 7th, the day of Tanabata. We turned the television on to display images of cute young children writing their wishes on boards and stretching out to hang them on bamboo stalks. The attire on Hinamizawa, our Tanabata, involved posted signs rejecting the infected up on violent-looking barricades, while many took up hunting rifles and glared at each other suspiciously. It was hard to believe that this was still the same Japan. Late at night, my mother visited me. She was clutching an envelope in her hand. Keiichi. Just now we received a letter for you, Keiichi. A letter? To me? Snatched up at once. It read to Kei-chan from Mion. What's this about during such a dark time? According to my mother, the doorbell rang, and by the time she reached our front door, it was shoved through the gap. She could have just come in if she went out of her way to visit. The fact that she avoided doing so and left only a letter had me feeling a tinge anxious. Though considering the abnormal state of the village lately, it made sense that Mion would be careful about trying to make contact. All the talk of this being an indigenous virus, or being Oyashiro-sama's wrath, would ultimately end with those people suspecting the outsiders who'd moved into town recently. The whole Maibara family was made painfully aware of that lately. Before opening this letter, I could understand that things had reached the point where Mion as a Sonozaki couldn't visit us in broad daylight anymore. And yet, the contents of this letter quickly informed me that was still a naive point of view. Takei-chan, be careful. The idea that we should make an example of the Maibaras and Ryugus is gaining more strength in our council area. I know it's a really crazy idea, but they're already been driven to the point where they'll be consumed by fear if they don't sacrifice someone. I was only able to argue otherwise the first few times. Starting several days ago, if anyone tried to object, they argued that person was covering for the infected because they were infected too. Now no one's putting a stop to this talk of lynching you all. It was fine back when they were all evenly split between the virus supporters and the Oyashiro-sama's curse supporters, since they'd both just argue incoherently with each other. But lately the curse supporters are gaining ground. It won't be long before they're leading the whole group. If my granny were well, she'd never allow such a riot. But she actually came down with a fever a few days ago, and now she can't get out of bed. So my relatives have started spreading rumors that it's the infection, so I'm losing my ability to speak at the council too. Like, if I'm not careful, they could sacrifice me as well. The position I'm in now, it's going to be hard for me to speak on behalf of you, your and Reina's family anymore. You could see that Ian's writing had steadily grown more hastened and sloppy as it went on. I didn't even have to ask to understand how she must have felt. I think it's dangerous to stay in Himizawa any longer than this. At the very least, if we stay shut up in our homes like this, then sooner or later we'll be murdered. So I'm planning to escape the village tomorrow night. The SDF is blocking off the perimeter. The Sonozakis have secret tunnels, and one of them exits out beyond the quarantine. Me and Granny are the only ones who know about these tunnels. I wanted to wait until after she recovered, but that doesn't look possible anymore. My granny just told me to leave her behind and run. My granny is saying that this is a return to the ancient legend of demons coming out from Onagafuchi Swamp. Right now, all the villagers are possessed by demons. They're going to start murdering each other. In those legends, Oishiro managed to calm everyone down, but before they were able to do so, the blood-soaked conflict they produced resulted in a massive number of casualties. They're going to kill us all. That brings me to the main point. Tell your family tonight about all this, and have them get rid of Kei-chan. I'll come for you all tomorrow night, and then we'll escape. Bring your cash, insurance card, bank book, and family seal. Also, fill your backpack with clothes and daily necessities, but don't let it get too heavy. Don't bring anything you have to carry. Make absolutely certain you can use both hands. For shoes, wear a comfortable pair you can walk easily in. I'm sending the same letter to Reina as well. This might seem like it's coming out of left field, so I doubt it feels real to you just yet. But trust me, I've been to town council meetings and the gatherings of the three families, so I have a very clear idea of just how crazy this village has become. You need to understand how dangerous this is. Even if you have faith and to do everything I've asked, I'm estimating only a 10% possibility at best of you, me, Reina, and our families all escaping Himizawa safely. That was the end of Mion's letter. What the hell? This whole situation was too much for me to take in, so I gripped my head. Yet Mion had entrusted this letter to me and asked me to trust her, knowing I'd feel that way. Once I took 3 deep breaths, I was able to realize that the danger Mion spoke of wasn't too far-fetched, considering the festering attitude that had filled Himizawa lately. What she had written here was unmistakably true. At the same time, that made me fear for Satoko. Since the letter didn't mention Rika, who the SDF had in custody, but there wasn't a single word written up here about Satoko, who'd been left in this village all alone. The only names on it were mine and Reina's. There's no way Mion could have forgotten about the club members, so there's no way she'd forget to mention Satoko. So then why? Terrible imaginations assailed my mind, each of them trying to suffocate me. That's right, Mion already mentioned her. She told us those who seriously believed that Oishiro's anger would subside if Satoko were offered as a sacrifice. No way. Is Satoko? I shot up from my seat, and the metal bat leaning against the bookshelf fell down, stopping against my feet. It was almost like it was telling me to take it with me. That was when I heard a gunshot. If this had been a normal, peaceful day, I would have assumed it was some kid having fun sitting off firecrackers or bottle rockets. But because we were in such a normal situation, I didn't make those wrong assumptions, encouraged as they were by times of peace. I opened my curtain and strained to peer into the darkness when I heard another gunshot. It sounded like it was even closer this time. I thought I could hear someone shouting something nearby. Suddenly, our doorbell began ringing frantically. My mind became clear. All unnecessary noise vanished from my thoughts. It felt like I didn't even need to breathe. In that vacuum state, I picked up the metal bat at my feet and raced for the front door. As I found my mom cowering, and my dad running in from the kitchen with a carving knife. Well, I would have thought it was strange for my dad to respond so violently, but in this exact moment, that actually felt like the proper response. Mom looked at my dad, wondering if it was safe to open the door, or step away from it. The button for our doorbell was pressed at our gate. Whoever had pressed it had now come through the gate, was standing right in front of the house. There was a bang, 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 clicking violently on our door. "Who is it?" Father shouted. They answered immediately. "Evening. It's Ryugu. Please let me in." "It's Reina." Out from behind my father, the sound of Reina's voice. This was an emergency and we needed to open the door right away. Even if we were plunged into a nightmare situation where the villagers had started a bloodbath, we club members would never doubt each other. "What? Mion, are you alright?" "She's not alright. We need to hurry and stop the bleeding." Reina was carrying a blood-soaked Mion whose breathing was fading fast. Asking if she was alright was just a waste of time, not even a social courtesy. The cry from Reina, we carried Mion and past the door and laid her down on the floor. Mion's left shoulder was badly injured and our clothes were stained red with blood. Clothes were supposed to be yellow, the shirt Mion loved to wear in her free time. That bright yellow shirt she always wore once school was over, that symbol of all our fun times together. That shirt that I was always happy to see was now completely stained to purest red. "Hey, she needs help. Grab a towel or something." Mion was holding her wound with a handkerchief, but the blood continued to spill from it. Her handkerchief would have dripped blood if it were wrung out. It's impossible to tell what color or design it used to be and whether it was Mion's favorite. "What on earth happened? What's going on here?" my father asked without putting away his knife. Reina frowned, having difficulty deciding where to even begin. Tricia made it clear that we didn't have time for her to explain. But did we even need an explanation? The bright red singing from her body from when she carried Mion was better than the words that conveyed the urgency of this situation. Also, we could soon explain it much faster than an explanation Reina might produce, because moments later we heard a bang outside our front door. Did she have a gunshot wound? The situation without a moment to spare. She was shot. Someone had shot her outside our house. Ah! Spun around at the sound of that shot, all raising the huge hatchet she had carried in one hand even while carrying me on. I gripped my bat and chased after Reina, my feet still bare. I didn't even hear my father calling for me behind us. "Reina!" Leapt on someone standing at our front gate, ruthlessly spitting his head open with her hatchet. The moment was unbelievable, and all too short. Reina easily brandished her huge hatchet at another man and threw it at him with tremendous force. A silver glint of moonlight flashed off the blade as it soared into the man's face. The man let out a short cry as a small dark spray spewed from his head. My understanding of typical social morals made my brain want to shout, "What are you doing, Reina?" But I also wanted to know who was such a threat that they warranted this reaction. Serena reached the man stumbling around with her hatchet in his face. She roughly yanked it out, then slammed the long hatchet in his head over and over. The man begged repeatedly for her to stop, but Reina didn't listen to him at all. She confirmed he wasn't moving anymore. She spoke. Killing someone means that you're ready to be killed in return. So don't take it lightly. It was almost like those words were meant for me. From Reina's perspective, I probably looked like I was still too accustomed to peace to understand the emergency we faced. That was when Reina turned and shouted, "That man's still alive!" Huh? And Reina first defeated. The man that fired a gun at our front door was clutching his forehead and trying to stand. He's already injured so badly we could probably let him go, but that thought was probably just me clinging to peace. That Reina didn't have that thought at all. The man was holding his head with one hand, but his other hand was still holding his hunting rifle. The threat this man posed wasn't dealt with if he could still pull the trigger on his gun. Gah! The thick lump of metal swung into him once more. This time the man's head cracked open. Reina turned back and glared at me. I was closest to that man, not Reina. Reina shouted so I could take him down, yet I stood there spacing out so Reina attacked him. He'd had a gun. If he had been quicker, Reina couldn't have done anything from our position. That's why she entrusted him to me, but I just stood there blankly, still unable to grasp the situation. Expression made me realize that, so I immediately apologized. Sorry. It's fine. Just hurry. He yanked her hatchet out the man's head and picked up his gun with her other hand. If you don't shoot, a gun can still be used to frighten opponents. Right. That's fine. Just hurry up and get ready to run. Can't say she'd come tomorrow in the letter she wrote? There goes my false sense of security. Oh yeah, but tell me what on earth happened? I asked Rain as we ran back to my front door. You got a letter from her, right? From her too, right, Keiichi-kun? Michan brought the same letter over to my house. That was when the neighborhood watch discovered her and shot her. Michan hadn't done anything to him. She did was deliver a letter to me and they shot her. Said the Ryugus were infected, and acting them was an ally of the infected, but they decided that all on their own. They shot her for it. Michan hadn't done anything to them, but they didn't care and they shot her anyway. Reina's eyes were full of anger and sadness as tears spilled down her cheeks. There wasn't anything I could say to her while she was possessed by those powerful emotions. Under my front door, Mion had been given a towel for the blood. My mother was with her, helping her put pressure on the wound. My mother was all shook up. The only medicines we kept in the house were band-aids, headache medicine, and cold medicine at best. We didn't have anything to help treat a gunshot wound. Our house with more blood splattered on our clothes and staining our hatchet. The commotion that just happened, my father understood everything once he saw the hunting rifle in Reina's hands. Once Reina understood that he did, she spoke. Sir, if we don't flee this place right now, we'll die. My own father was already murdered. Just now. Tried to save Michan, so they didn't even hesitate. They shot him as easily if they were driving off crows. I can't believe it. Can't believe it. Mion's mouth opened feebly after hearing Reina's screams. I'm sorry, Reina. It screwed up. I'm really sorry. It's not your fault, Mi-chan. And I don't hate anyone anymore. Those who deserve my hatred have all paid the proper price. So did the man who shot you, Mi-chan. Just moments ago, Reina watched her father get murdered and Mion get shot. And then she dragged herself out of that hell, where even her own life was in danger. The expression on her face was one I had never glimpsed in our daily life. It made me realize just how hellish it had all been for her. We need to get ready to run right now. The year's already closing in. What? What are the villagers coming here for? What are they trying to do? There was no need to ask. Asked for an answer from Mion's bloody mouth. That was why my father swallowed his confusion and after clearing his throat simply asked one thing. To where? There's a hidden tunnel in Mi-chan's secret basement that none of the villagers know about. So long as we can take it there, we should be able to pull through. Reina explained what was written in the letter on Mion's behalf. Mion still tried to explain but ended up coughing instead. Dad, Mom, we don't have a moment to waste, let's run. Right, let's go. My father registered the pressing danger when it took him several seconds to abandon his morals as an average member of normal society before nodding. But my mother couldn't make a quick decision. But everyone, what will happen to our home? What's going to happen? Villagers come here. They may very well burn our house down. But if my mother understood that, then her hesitation didn't make any sense. If they were willing to burn down our home, then what good would hold up inside them? Who knows what they would do to us then? My mother wasn't an idiot. I mean, that's exactly why she was so confused. This moment, my father, who had been on edge since the first day of the quarantine, was the one acting responsible. Still, my mother managed to regain some sense, so she went back in and grabbed only her handbag with our bank book. My father took the hunting rifle from Reina. He boasted that he knew how to handle one after using a similar type of air gun, but it was up to the listener to determine how reassuring that sounded. Mion told us to leave her behind since she'd only slow us down, but Reina slapped her hard after that suggestion. No! Without you, we won't know where the secret basement is. Don't abandon your responsibility so lightly. Now take us there. With you around, I can't die an easy death at all. It looked like Mion had recovered enough energy to talk back at least, but we couldn't leave her wound untreated forever. If we don't get a proper doctor to look at her, then all that blood loss will lead to disaster. Hey, Mi-chan, time to debate this, so give me an answer. Glared at Mion with a dry expression, and asked her just one thing. Why were you suggesting we should escape without Satoko-chan? Yeah, that myself. What's going on with Satoko, Mion? She's in a worse position than me and Reina, right? Can't just leave Satoko behind. Satoko's... Mion trailed off, but Reina wasn't allowing her to get away with just that. If she's dead, then just tell us. If you don't, then we're going to believe she's still alive. Thinking I narrowed my eyes tight, that image of the worst possible outcome crossed my mind more than once or twice. There's no way Mion would ever forget about Satoko, yet her name was absent from the letters she wrote us. That left only one possible reason. Even I was able to imagine why, but I couldn't put it into words. Satoko's been taken away by those riders from before. They said they were dragging her to Onagafuchi. Apparently they're going to spend 3 days submerging her according to the rituals passed down in the village. So she's alive, at least for now? Both latched on Mion at once. No other 9 of us had any thought of blaming Mion for nearly abandoning Satoko. Mion used the information she was able to gather as a Sonozaki to make a logical decision. And after bitter deliberation, she decided she wouldn't be able to save her. I couldn't do anything. Do anything about it. The council's officials took the lead, and after they added the shrine group, the youth group, the neighborhood watch, and other from the village, their numbers swelled past 100 people. The watch is close. Hunting club too, so they're armed with at least 20 shotguns and rifles. Keep shouting. Everyone keeps spouting Oyashiro-sama like they've all been possessed. There's no mercy left in them. If I tried to protect Satoko, the villagers would have shot me to death without hesitation. Like they did to you and my father? Mion nodded bitterly as tears spilled from her eyes. She wept at her own lack of power to stop them, and for the lost lives of the villagers who still tried to uphold justice. Understand why. It was normal just 3 days ago. They were reasonable then. They've gone mad in just the past 72 hours. Their eyes were bloodshot and they've lost all reason. They didn't go crazy just because the SDF left. They were crazy before then. The killer virus isn't what's scary now. It's everyone in the village. A few thoughts. This virus, it isn't one that drives people to death, but one that drives people to madness, making the villagers become demons one after another. Just try retracing the legend of Oyashiro once more. Shiro isn't the only one who can resolve this situation. And our reincarnation as Rika-chan is nowhere to be found. Besides, Oyashiro was a god anyway, right? They weren't human, were they? There's nothing we humans can do. Nothing. Calm down, Mion. I crashed down and knowing it would aggravate her wound. I held her tight and let her hear my heartbeat. Thank you. Lorraine and I were taking it easy without realizing what was going on. You were working hard behind the scenes to try and stop the rumors. I'm sure that's why the village wasn't swallowed by madness until today. If it wasn't for your hard work, the inevitable tragedy we face today would have consumed us long ago. So thank you, Mion. Mion was in the deepest ranks of the Sonozakis. And even though she's a kid just like us, she fought all this time. She fought against the overwhelming madness of the village up until the very end. With her efforts acknowledged, she cried into Keiichi's chest. The tears she was shedding now were slightly different than the ones she'd shed before. Reina, I know you might want to blame Mion, but I don't plan on blaming her at all. That's actually good to hear. Reina said casually. She's a strange one. Feels like the bigger the gamble, or the more dangerous the situation, the more composed she gets. Just like a blue flame. At first glance, it looks like it's just burning quietly, but it burns far hotter than a red one does. That's why I answered in turn. Yeah, that's true. It's good news without a doubt. Yeah, it's great news. Satoko-chan's alive. Top of that, we know they'll keep her alive for another 72 hours. It's fantastic to hear. The bat I had been gripping began to grow hot in my grasp, almost as if the bat had been immersed in a blazing fire. The heat stinging the palms of my hands. Yeah, I know, Satoshi. There's nothing to fear even when you get nervous. Get serious. One hit from this will smash their heads in. Don't tell me. You're planning on rescuing Satoko-chan. Dad, take Mom and Mion and escape through the secret exit. Rin and I will handle the rest. Keiichi! Sorry, ma'am. Please take care of Mi-chan. Also, don't take your eyes off of her. Mi-chan doesn't play fair and likes to steal the spotlight. So she might try sneaking off after us, even though she's badly wounded and in a lot of pain. Treating me like I'm dead weight. Judging from Mion's current state, she didn't really have the energy to do that, but she'd never be so heartless as to silently watch us head off. Mion absolutely would try to follow us and provide backup, even if both of her legs were falling off. we can't allow Mion to die. We're not going to lose a single one of our friends. We won't let that happen. And Mion is our leader. Without her, there'd be no one to wrangle us wild horses together. Besides, she's also the only one who knows how to escape from this village. Keiichi. Don't give me such a sad look, Mom. Times like these, you gotta send us off with a smile. Dad, I'll meet up with you later at the Sonosaki house. Keiichi, you two should come with us. You can't face them alone. Sir, I appreciate the sentiment, but it's already too late. See? Rena flung open the door, and we heard the hustling moves of a huge crowd chanting Oishiro-sama over and over like some creepy sutra. We wasted too much time dawdling. If we were all in top condition and ran at full speed, then we would have had the option of running away from here like my father suggested. But since my father wasn't used to thinking like we do in our club activities, he was a move behind. So long as Mion was heavily wounded, we needed someone to buy time for them to take Mion and escape. And a normal person like my father, who still hadn't steeled his resolve after we were driven into this corner, wasn't going to be useful in the fight. The only ones who could fight were the club members thoroughly trained by Mion, who were able to release their limiters and grasp the severity of the situation instantly. Let's go, Keiichi-kun. Right, let's go take care of this real quick. The bright farewell Rain and Keiichi left for his parents. It was almost the same as when they headed to school in the morning, but they didn't have their bags. Instead, they carried a hatchet and a metal bat. They weren't wearing their uniforms either. No, what they wore was enough of a uniform. Their blood-soaked clothes were a more than fitting uniform for that mad and crimson night. We exit out the front and close the door behind us, silently willing the others to run in that time. Beyond the door, there were the lights of several flashlights swinging like the breaths of ravenous beasts. Every one of them was chanting Oyashiro-sama's name as they drew closer. They were probably the same number of people as our class. Wow, just over 20, huh? You think they think they can win? I'm betting they do. Well, amateurs would believe that when there's 20 of them together. Haha. What a foolish bunch they are. If they tried to settle things peacefully, they might have held out a little longer. But they've made a grave mistake. Yeah, they did. They attacked Mion. They kidnapped Satoko. They went after our club. And that sealed their fate. Rain and I practically slid forward as we ran and hid behind the gate posts on the side. Our quick movements were like a panther's after its prey. They certainly weren't the movements of a cornered rat. In this situation, it was... No, with the composure they showed, it was hard to tell who was being hunted. Nor why. Even though we're facing so many people, I'm not afraid at all. That bunch is strange. I wonder why, too. If there was a world of dreams and daydreams, then in some other world we must have already fought against much, much more frightening and vast numbers. Yet we still overwhelmed them. So it didn't feel like we were going to lose to people like this. Hey, Keiichi-kun, when Michan was talking to us earlier, you said you thought that was good news too? I thought it was good news for a different reason. What? What other reason? It sounds fun. So tell me. Or wait, have I already figured it out? Right now, Reina was wearing the same expression as me, and smiling with confidence. It's not so much that you figured it out, as it just doesn't matter to you at all, really. Then tell me, what was this good news for you? Well, our enemies are the town council's shrine group, the youth group, and the neighborhood watch, totaling a little over 100, right? On top of that, there's the hunting club with about 20 rifles. Grief. It's totally on our side, isn't it? Because there's only 100 to face. There's not enough of them to go around. I was convinced the whole village was our enemy. I was ready to crush all 2,000 people in Hinamizawa, so I'm almost disappointed to hear there were so few. 100 people in 72 hours? There's only 20 here. They're underestimating us. They're absolutely underestimating us. Taking down 100 foes in 72 hours when Reina and I both are serious? Think we'll have time to spare? Nah, there won't be enough. Think they'll give us trouble? Idiot. That's not what I meant. I chuckled. Together we laughed. The 20 that had picked a fight with Mion were drawing closer. Then they finally got in range to attack. Now let's have some fun. Let's have lots and lots of fun over these next 72 hours. Satoko-chan, wait up for us. The 3-day-long Crimson Tragedy was about to begin. Well, they got spliced just to get gotted. Some badass music. This means Rika must still be alive. Yay! Then, of course, Mion caught up. The club members were stationed on a hill overlooking Okinomiya. There was Keiichi, Reina, and Mion, also Rika and Satoko, who they had rescued. They were all in worn-out clothes covered in dirt, stains, and dust, otherwise soiled with blood. Those bright red days were violently long, and passed by without a moment to sleep. All of them there without anyone missing. The ferocious battle certainly did take place, but to the club members, only the result their victory was important. The deadly combat that led to this point was no longer worth remembering. All that mattered was that everyone had safely gathered here. What was even more important than that, with the sight of Okonomiya in the distance, it hadn't ended. From here, it was plain to see that the madness hadn't remained limited to Hinamizawa. Town of Okonomiya too. I had a faint suspicion about this. This still isn't over yet, is it? Has this virus commotion only spread to Okonomiya? Do you think it spread even further? I can't tell by looking from here. Has the whole world gone to ruin? I don't know, but we're all here. It's not like everyone in Hinamizawa went crazy either. That's true. There are still those who retain their sanity even now. I'm sure there are some in Okonomiya as well. We might need to scout it out first. Yeah, I figured you'd say that. We have to see for ourselves whether the world's really been destroyed or not. The village is about to run out of food and daily necessities. We threw off our pursuers, but there's no need to stay in the village. I'm worried about Shion-san. In that case, it's settled. Let's go into town to Okonomiya. Rika? I'll stay here. Rika! I'll stay behind in Hinamizawa. Because once this commotion is settled, I'll need to tell them this is where they belong. I couldn't understand all of what Rika was saying, but I could understand she said she'd remain in the village by herself. Stay away. It's dangerous, Rika. Those guys are still out searching for you, you know. I'll be alright. Good at hide and seek. Nipa! Rika smiled like she usually did, showing us that we had no chance of breaking her resolve. Because Satoko was her best friend, she understood there was no convincing Rika once she gave us that look. Rika-chan, you don't need to worry about me. Rather you go check on the world. Is this beginning the end of this commotion? Or is it already over? I want you to figure that out. Telling us that. Rika waved her hand goodbye. We all prayed for Rika's safety, then slowly set off. Behind us, Rika spoke with a beautiful smile and a clear voice. Fight. Oh, you guys. We get a thing too? Okay, so that was a scenario basically if there was that outbreak or whatever. Oh, okay, so there's like a part one and then a second part, okay. So wait a second. Let me check. Oh, okay. Okay, sorry, I was just checking on the... Okay, so in that case, we will... Okay. Okay, so I used to do this. When they cry, Kashibashi chapter, the tragedy spreads to Okonomiya with no end in sight. Who is behind all of this, and for what purpose? Can it be stopped? The tale of Higurashi outbreak concludes here. The difficulty is inhuman. Please watch over the club members' final battle. This is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to actual persons or organizations is entirely coincidental. In the distant town of Okonomiya, we saw smoke rising from fires here and there. We had a very clear view of it as it hung ominously over the whole town. Occasionally the wind carried the sound of screams raging and unidentifiable, these portentous noises echoing in the quiet town. It sounds like something's dying to cry. This isn't just in Hinamizawa, huh? Does this mean the virus has finally spread to Okonomiya? Trika. She had stayed behind in Hinamizawa of her own volition. We tried to stop her since it was dangerous. Seeing this sight, maybe it really was better to stay in Hinamizawa where we knew our way around. Mion was still injured, but for the time being she seemed stable. But still, she'd only been given first aid. She still needed to see a doctor. The rioters had broken into the Irie clinic, so it was abandoned and Irie was nowhere to be found. Anyway, we need to find you a doctor. I'm doing fine. Sure it hurts, but it's settled down a lot. No. If you don't get proper treatment, then it could fester later. We'll just have to search for a doctor. It's hard to imagine any doctors are open for business with things like this. Let's head for the office of the Sonozaki group. My mother and the others there should be able to do something. Think Shi-chan's there too? Given what's happened, that's probably the safest place to be. I just hope those people are still reasonable. Anyway, let's check out the town. Can't stay up here forever. Right. Is this disaster's only happening here? It's expand out to the rest of Japan? We don't know anything here in Hinamizawa. The idea that this could be happening all over the world. I don't want to think about it. Let's go. I'm alright, I can walk by myself. Normally we'd go to Okonomiya by bicycle, but it was easy to imagine that rioters would be acting like the neighborhood watch here in Okonomiya, just like they were in Hinamizawa. The whole virus commotion originated in Hinamizawa. So the people in Okonomiya should naturally view everyone coming from Hinamizawa as an enemy. We decided it was too dangerous to move on roads, likely with a path on them, so we headed there on foot using back paths instead. The kind of routes used by gatherers, the elderly, and the children that ran around in the fields of Hinamizawa were the safest routes. While Keiichi and the others headed to Okonomiya. Keiichi's parents had evacuated themselves to the Sonozaki's secret underground tunnels. There were already some resources stored down there, so they'd be safe for a while. Still, they needed to reach a place that was even safer with plenty of food and medical treatment. Confirming whether or not such a safe space even existed was their biggest objective behind scouting out Okonomiya. There's mounds of corpses. It's an awful sight. The miserable remains of those beaten to death by the rioters, here and there on the shoulders of the street. Even Hanyu shook her head at the swarm of flies and the pervasive stench of death. But it's grown quieter. Yes, it has. It's about the time when nearly all those who let the demons of paranoia into their hearts die off after trying to kill each other. That roaring wind that was like the ominous groan of a dragon could no longer be heard. All that enveloped Hinamizawa in its place was the silence of death. The screams of those who allowed the demons into their hearts and began killing each other could no longer be heard either. Doesn't hurt to be cautious. True. I can't die before I see how this crazy world ends. Where are you going? Higurashi Clinic's basement. Should be the safest place in Hinamizawa right now, don't you think? The underground research ward was filled with the silence of death as well. So long as she didn't mind the corpses and the trails of bright red blood spatter staining the pale white walls, it was the perfect place to hide out for a while. There's still violent ones in the village? Yes. I think it should be quiet down, but for now... Then it's settled. Let's wait for the heat to die down. Should be able to find someone's drinks and snacks down there. Plus the bathrooms are nice. He and Hanyu made their way to the Higurashi Clinic. For all that time they spent researching the disease, turned out they were just a den of incompetence, unable to do anything at all. They passed through animal trails in the mountains, through footpaths between the fields. Sometimes they held their breath and tried to sense the presence of nearby people, while other times they ran like rabbits. Then once they jumped right over the guardrails, they were in Okonomiya. For now and then the wind would carry a roar from the distance, along with smoke and the smell of something burning. The town was deathly quiet, but it wasn't dead. The rioters who allowed paranoia into their hearts were only lying in wait as they teemed with rage. More dangerous here than in Hinamizawa. Agreed. Got nothing but bad feelings about this. The riots here because of fear about the virus as well? This is just my theory, but I think this might be a symptom of the virus, actually. Maybe so. What do you mean? So it's like a human version of rabies. I thought everyone was going crazy out of fear of this killer virus, but that's not enough to explain everything. It's that stokes unfounded fears and suspicions till the victim is driven by nothing else. Disease like that really exist? They never mentioned any of that on TV. TV doesn't always tell the truth. There's a possibility the killer virus part was just a wrong guess. They're both equally frightening, that's for sure. Why are we fine then? Maybe we're resistant? Well, even if we're not showing any symptoms, can't rule out the possibility that we're still carrying the disease. Is it really okay? Just go in the city like this? It shouldn't be a problem, judging by this state of affairs. We advanced carefully, checking to make sure the roads were clear. Abandoned cars formed lines of the city streets. Some cars had crashed into each other and were still smoking at various intersections. Even on the sidewalks, we saw the scattered remains of people murdered under suspicion of being infected. I just hope Shion and Mion's parents are still sane. Mom and Dad are keeping everyone in line, I'm sure. Shion-san does have a quick temper. There's a huge gap between how Shi-chan acts when she's calm and when she isn't. We're a little worried about her. She'll be fine. Shion won't talk back to Mom at a time like this. I'm sure Mom will be keeping everyone organized. Oryo had been healthy. Even the Hinamizawa Town Council wouldn't have lost its cool. We had already gotten a taste of how strong leadership could prevent chaos ahead of time. This virus probably drives people to attack others out of fear and anxiety. So with strong leadership, teamwork, and trust, they should be able to maintain their senses. I think the virus commotion fostered fear, and their terror ran rampant. That idea feels right to me. At the very least, even Hinamizawa started acting weird up until the JSDF left and stopped doing their jobs. That is true. The JSDF left, everyone grew frightened all at once. The world went mad. Raised her voice to note the sudden memory. Reminds me, Pika said something too. The people with strong hearts will be fine, since you won't hand them over to demons. Pika-chan said that. Yes, I just assumed she meant something along the lines of illness starts in the mind, but... maybe there is a chance. She meant exactly what she said. There was that moment when the blood rushed to our heads, when Rain and I went to rescue Satoko. Maybe that was really risky for the two of us. Maybe so. We had to stay calm even as that fire burned strong in our hearts. Let your heart run hot, and keep your thoughts cool. Maybe the reason we didn't like the others, because we've been training ourselves for this kind of situations on Mion's club. If you lose your cool and hand your heart over to your primal emotions, then you go crazy. If you call the result of that process a demon, then it fits with the legends passed down from long ago about Onagafuchi Village. That legend about demons coming up out of the swamp? I'm sure something similar to this happened long ago, and I'm positive the people thrown in the paranoia and running around out of control were called demons. It makes sense. We're getting a grasp of what's going on. Still, if there were legends about it, that means the whole thing was settled and people survived. So this isn't hopeless. We have hope. Right. This commotion isn't going to destroy the world. There's guaranteed to be a way to end it. He's waiting for Oyashiro-sama to descend, the only option we have? That's how it ended back then, according to legends. People aren't able to do anything except wait for Oyashiro-sama's descent. God, just give me a couple minutes. Alright, back. We will continue. I'll just put on their be right back screen. Okay, I'm back. Excuse the occasional crunching. I have nuts. Almond. Yes, the power of mixed nuts will help me through this. Hazelnut. This is a bad idea. Now I can't stop eating the nuts. Yeah. What were we doing? Oh yeah. Trying to avoid the virus. Are you saying all we can do is wait? With all this going on? If we're to follow the legends. Yeah, come on already. Oh, Yashiro-sama. If you're out there watching, then lift the descent and put a stop to this. Got you! Can gods catch colds? Ow, ow. Humans are the only ones that can sneeze, you know. Area Clinic had been ransacked by rioters, believing the rumors that a cure was hidden here. They had swarmed it en masse. But that only applied to the sections on the surface. The riot had been extended to the secret research ward underground. There's nothing here, though. Here or around, he would have taken action long ago. We mustn't avert our eyes. There were several corpses gathered in flies there in the plundered clinic. Those who believed in the cure ultimately became convinced that someone there was hiding it and began to kill each other. Hanyu covered her eyes after all, but Arina stepped over the corpses without any concern. Some of the corpses were even familiar faces to her, but Rika didn't seem to care. She passed through the secret door and headed underground. It was far safer to stay behind the secret security door than on the surface. After all, other researchers were either murdered or committed suicide. There was nothing safer than a place completely devoid of others. The security system confirmed it was Rika Furude, and then the door opened. Even though her expression never changed the sight of the corpses, she heaved a sigh of relief when she confirmed the door was shut behind her. Now we can do as we please. We can sleep through this or snack on the treats someone stored down here. There's no one else here after all. I'm surprised you're able to stay so calm amidst that dreadful sight. Don't know if that's being strong or shameless. I've experienced death, even my own, more times than I can count. So why should some stranger's corpse faze me at this point? Rika was cuter. She was as scared as anyone should be for your age. What should I fear at this point? Suppose you could summon up a ghost. I'd be a little surprised if you did that. Huh? What is it, Rika? Start scaring me, okay? The underground war was supposed to be empty, but she thought she heard something just then. Was it her imagination? Both glanced at each other, held their breath, and strained their ears. Hear that, right? Is that a ghost? You're practically a ghost yourself, so why are you afraid? So what is the sound? Far off in the distance was a thin, nearly a dull sort of sound repeating over and over. They both nodded to each other and strained their ears, trying to identify the source of the sound. Kill them, kill the infected, kill them all and burn their corpses. A group of 10 young rioters dashed down the main street. Their clothes were stained with a spray of blood, and their eyes were bloodshot. The bats and metal pipes in their hands were dripping with blood, and were bent in unsettling directions. If those people find us, then we're really in trouble. Are they college students? I guess this won't be as easy as facing Kirimizawa's elderly. We're fine, I think. They haven't found us. Phew. This is a real pickle. The insane youths were dashing whenever they heard some commotion. Then they killed those who fled. Those who begged for their lives, and occasionally those who stood against them. They truly were acting like bloodthirsty demons. That very sight was most likely what the legends of Onagafuchi village were passing down. Is the office far from here? In terms of distance, no. But if we're trying to avoid the main street, then it's surprisingly hard to get to. The main street is full of crazies that they're running around everywhere, killing each other. Then let us practice safety first. Fight! We heard the rattling of an empty can rolling around somewhere behind us. Someone had kicked the empty can trap Satoko set up earlier. They weren't keeping quiet either. We could hear the loud voices of the rioters drawing close. They had finally started searching the back alleys too in their search for more to kill. This is bad. They'll catch up to us. Can't exactly run either. They'll find us. You have to hide and wait them out. Bring those trash cans over here. Great cover. Hurry. Okay, John, grab that one. Yeah. Was an unfortunate mistake. Keiichi's foot slipped and some of the garbage scattered across the trash can, and he went down, can and all. The loud clatter echoed through the back alley. I heard something. Must be another infected. Others responded to that call, their war cries full of madness and rage roaring in the distance. The cries came from behind and in front of them. It's a pincer attack. Can't fight here. They'll only draw in even more of them. We'll have to break through the front. Let's push through to the office. Ow, ow. Seriously? Keiichi-kun, did you sprain your leg? Fruin's blood froze in an instant, because that meant they just lost their one and only best option. Mion lent Keiichi her shoulder and quickly issued orders. Satoko, find our way out. Reina, weapons. I'm already on it. It's all I could find. A sign prohibiting bicycle parking would at least serve to frighten others if she swung it at them. But their greatest weapon of all was the look in Reina's eyes filled with resolve to protect her friends. Whenever Reina was prepared to defend something precious to her, she showed no mercy or hesitation. Satoko used the talented observation skills she had when setting traps to rapidly calculate what to do. If both forward and backward were blocked off, then they could only escape upward. If they used the trash can as the stool and climbed up those eaves, then... But they couldn't. Keiichi had sprained his leg. There wasn't anything they could do without a ladder. I'm fine. It's only temporary. This is nothing. It certainly wasn't so bad that he couldn't walk. It probably would heal quickly once he got some rest. But that didn't mean he could hope to escape their current dire straits. Why did you have to sprain your foot at a time like this? You really are a blockhead, Keiichi-san. If only we had a ladder. If you're just worried about me, I'll manage. So don't worry about me and climb up there. If you've got time to spout nonsense, then start praying that I find a ladder. If it... Uishiro, please bless us with a ladder. Ha. Praying will save us, then I'll stick my belly button out and dance. Michan, a ladder. Huh? Really was a ladder coming down from one of the eaves. Yep, there was a lone young girl lowering a stainless steel ladder with shaky hands. She pretty light. It was pretty heavy for such a small girl. There was a pretty good chance she'd lose her balance and fall down. Thank you. It's good now, so let go. Took the ladder and quickly moved it into place. Kei-chan, can you climb? If I don't climb, then those other people are dying at Reina's hands. Thanks. You can avoid more needless deaths if you can climb if you can. Reina had already broken off parts of the wooden sign's frame, turning it into a sharp, pointed spear. Her idea was on a whole level from just waving it around to scare people. It was both frightening and reassuring. Still, nothing was better than taking the ladder. Thank you. I don't know who you are, but thank you very much. Suppose it is worth that. Good, I can climb. I know, but hurry. They're almost here. There's more of those infected bastards. Whole bunch, actually. Kill them all. If you're out to kill, then you're prepared to be killed too, right? Reina-san, please climb. As Reina climbed up, Mion quickly pulled up the ladder. The girl gestured to say it was okay to leave the ladder here, before passing through the second floor window via the eaves. Below them, the young riders were spouting filthy curses as they searched for a way to climb. This way. This place won't be safe forever, either. Seriously, thank you. You saved our lives. Are we going out through another window? There's no way those people won't climb up here. She exited through another window, then used an outdoor air conditioning unit as a stepping stone to climb onto the neighbor building through its own window. Apparently, she had been traveling along the second floor of the shopping district to avoid the dangerous streets below. And continued moving from that, from building to building and roof to roof, until they were certain they had managed to escape to a safe area. They eventually stopped at the second floor of a shop/residence. Apparently that was her shelter. We're okay. Looks like we shook him off. They just started searching for other prey. Those people just want to kill. It's like the streets are an ocean full of sharks. Now you're thinking of dolphins. You're really thankful. Slightly less pervy dolphins, I guess. You saved us. No one knows. She's safe now or not. Well, we managed to escape that particular crisis if nothing else. But I should thank you. So thanks. I guess I did earn your thanks. Hehe, right. She had no obligation to risk herself to try and save someone else. If she was able to lock her up tight indoors, then her best option would have been to curl up and shut out all other sounds. I'm Meibara Keiichi, you? Une, is what people call me. I'm Reina. This is Mi-chan and Satoko-chan. Nice to meet you. You really did save us at the perfect time. We're lucky. That doesn't mean you always will be. Well, luck is another kind of strength. Is it just you here, Une-chan? Any others? There were. They're not coming back. If she stayed quiet, she would be safe here. That's the sad nature of humanity. Once they gain safety, they want to risk danger. Whether it's wanting to make sure your family is safe or to return home. Once a person finds safety, they can't just stay there. The place certainly was a shelter. There were a dozen plastic bottles full of water lined up, and there were about 4 grocery bags stuffed full of candy bags laying there too. They didn't know how many had been here, but as long as they were frugal, they could hole up for 3 days. When people manage to create a safe space, they want to bring their family and friends into it. That's true. Staying put here and ignoring what you outside might be the right answer. Thanks to Une-chan, we're all safe. I can't really thank you enough for saving our lives. Are there still many more violent groups like that one? There's more than that. There's plenty. Figures. Still, they're not running around in the middle of the night, right? The neighborhood watch in Hinamizawa set up patrols after dark. They're frightened too. I do doubt they'll let their guard down and start snoring. So it should be a little safer than moving in the middle of the day. The Sonotakyo Group's office isn't far, right? Well, not in terms of direct distance. You should wait and observe for a bit. There's no need to rush. That's true. Une-chan, could you tell us a bit about what's going on in the city? Telling you won't take that long. Found it. Should open if I do this. Oh. What do we do if there's a terrifying ghost trapped in there? Then you two can have a staring contest to determine which one's the stronger apparition. Ika! The strange, repetitive sound they heard was coming from the other side of a sturdy door, labeled the emergency storage door. Someone was slamming themselves against the thick metal door. That idea made the most sense, at least. Why the emergency storage room? Maybe someone there was using it as a jail cell. When? For whom? If
even Aoyashiro don't know that. Suppose that's true.
Emergency storage room was the type being locked from the outside. Given that something kept hitting it there's probably no way to unlock it from inside. She came back with the master key. The sound stopped for a moment. They were worn out from hitting it so much. Either that, or they had gone quiet as Rika and Hanyu approached, and were lying in wait for them.
I'm opening it. Time you're ready.
She inserted the key and slowly turned it. A second. There's an ad break. Hold on. Just wait till it ends. Give me just a sip. Take a sippy. Okay. She inserted the key and slowly turned it. There's no way that an L5 patient was being kept quarantined in here, right? Whereas the moment she opened it, they could leap out from the inside and start attacking her. Won't happen. There's no way Ire and the others would do something so senseless as locking a victim up in a place like this. Even for the 100-year-old witch Rika, it was hard to fight the curiosity of finding out what lay beyond that door. She didn't have any interest in this crazy world, but she could die at any time. So she wanted to see what happened to the world up until the very end. It wasn't some noble desire to watch over its demise, but the slightly wicked curiosity of wanting to see something scary. She slowly opened the heavy door. The slight crack came the foul, hot scent of sweat mixed with something rotten. The smell made her imagine something more filthy than frightening. There was a light on the inside, and a sweaty man who was collapsed on the floor slowly raised his head.
Tomatake. Rika-chan. You saved me. What were you doing in a place like that?
Who knows? At the very least, it wasn't something I chose.
Rika, the pipes in the back.
Handcuffs. Fastened to the pipes at the back of the storage room. Repair of broken handcuffs. He was most certainly bound up in them before. Just how long had he been held captive in there, though? Judging from his surroundings, it had to have been more than a day. It couldn't be. Had he been locked up there since this whole commotion started? He was worn down and exhausted, but it looked like he had just barely held on to his mind. By the way, has anything happened outside over the past few days?
Not much. In fact, it's finally quieted down. Rika. The villagers expressed criminal symptoms one after another. Now it's spread beyond the village and into Okonomiya as well.
That's terrible. What about Takano?
Speaking of her, I haven't seen her since the commotion started.
Could you summon Director Ire here at once? Something's terrible's going to happen.
Something terrible has already happened and ended.
No, something even more terrible is going to happen. Takano is planning to spread Hinamizawa syndrome to all Japan, no, the entire world. Apparently it had all started several days back. Tomatake had already been locked up in here, back when everything was peaceful before anything had happened.
You awake? Jiro-san.
And forced to breathe in from an ammonia bottle. Tomatake's body wavered like heavy lead as he slowly looked up at Takano.
He tried to move his legs but felt a cold, heavy sensation against them. Now there were handcuffs on his ankles that were fastened to the pipes. Takano-san, what kind of joke is this? Joke? Heavens no. This is truly a divine revelation. What are you talking about? Been chosen by God, yes. This was all of a divine revelation. Takano's eyes looked like she was delirious with fever, but she herself was probably calmer than ever. Still, to Tomoka's eyes, she looks like she was drunk on some strong liquor and caught up in a daydream. I wish you would have calmed down. Could you explain this so I can understand? Yes, thinking about it, it wouldn't be that hard to explain in a way you can understand. But I must tell you, even if you don't understand what it means at all. Would you still want to tell me then? I'm a little honored. Hehe. Thank you. For saying that, you really are a special person, Jiro-san. And you'd tie this special person up in a place like this. I want you to stay here until the world is finished transforming into a new one. What are you plotting? No plot this time. It's a divine revelation. I've been chosen by God. Tomitake wasn't a fool. He had a vague idea of what Takano was plotting from that exchange. Don't tell me. You're trying to cause something terrifying to occur, are you? Aren't you? Might be something terrifying indeed, but it's God's revelation. I have a feeling something wonderful is about to happen too. You're not planning to take the virus we're researching out of here, are you? I'm positive that all of our research has been for the sake of this day. God has chosen me. He understands my noble purpose. Stop it. I don't know who's instigated this, but that's not a divine revelation. It's the whisper of a devil. A devil? What a cruel thing to say. Perhaps you can't see their divine glory. Well, of course you can't. You're just an average person. Takano pulled something out of her pocket and tossed it to Tomitake. It was a box with a syringe and a bottle of medicine. He recognized it. It was the new prophylactic for the Hinamizawa syndrome, though that was only supposed to be in development still. If you would like to witness the new world, then inject that into yourself. If you're fortunate, then you'll avoid an acute outbreak. Stop this. Still turn back from this. Tuck this out with me, and undo these handcuffs first. Takano slowly lifted the attaché case sitting at her feet. It wasn't an ordinary attaché case, though. It was a special one used to transport N-173. If she spread its contents through the air, then a wide range of people would contract Hinamizawa syndrome, eventually reach L5 and cause a terrifying disaster. For Takano, researching the syndrome was her way of proving her grandfather's great work to be true. So it was a holy act akin to worshipping God. He knew that, yet an outbreak of Hinamizawa syndrome, and the terrifying ruin that would bring about should not be her goal. He couldn't even imagine what sort of delusions had come to possess her, but she was prepared to do it, without hesitation. See you later, Jiro-san. If you're lucky, we'll meet again. Since this is an emergency storage room, you should find food and water within your reach. You'll be able to take care of those handcuffs too. Even if I locked the door from the outside, right? As long as he had time, then Tomitake was certain he could break out of the handcuffs. But that would grant Takano plenty of time to carry out her terrifying ambition. Wait, hold on, Takano. Wait! Is you planning to destroy the world? Heavens no. Going to save humanity as God has revealed to me, by letting his cute little children here fly free. That's the whisper of the devil. You mustn't listen to it. I hear the devil is elsewhere. Huh? The devil trying to destroy humanity has already appeared. God told me. He told me that I'm the only one who can stop it. What you're about to do really is the work of the devil. Don't let yourself be fooled by him. Don't worry. Droll God is always with me. Farewell, I'm going to Okonomiya. You're there, right? Yes, I know. How could this be? How? As expected, I guess that woman never learns. So it's her fault again. We're too late? What a disaster. Takte was captured right before the incident, and had been shut inside here up until today. It was all too late for him to do anything. Takano had already spread the infection far beyond the village. May she already spread it to the entire city or even the entire prefecture. Tomitake shook his head many times as Rika described the present situation. I forgot to unmute myself. When was I, As that woman never learned, it's her fault again. Too late, but a disaster. Tomitake was captured right before the incident and had been shut inside here up until today. It was too late for him to do anything. Takano had already spread the infection far beyond the village. She's already spread it to the entire city or even the entire prefecture. Tomitake shook his head many times as Rika described the present situation. The reality was hard for him to accept, but the gruesome sight of the researchers who murdered each other or took their own lives wouldn't permit him to consider otherwise. Tomitake entered the security room and started fiddling with the radio, but it didn't look like he was going to be able to contact anyone outside. According to the emergency manual, in the event of an outbreak of Hinibizawa syndrome, they are to employ jamming waves throughout the region in order to prevent the spread of chaos. Of course, the phone lines were down too, so there was no way to get crucial information about Takano's involvement to those outside. Apparently, they've already escalated to hazard level X2. What does that mean? It means the syndrome has spread to Shishibone City. At present, the city is quarantined off from the outside and all the bridges have been blocked off. Hopefully Tokyo manages to do something with that time. So all we can do is wait? Unfortunately, that's not the case. We can't leave Takano on the loose. She had said, a devil has appeared to destroy humanity. I'm headed to Okonomiya. That's where you are, isn't it? I don't know what she's calling a devil, but we can't afford to let her have her way any more than she already has, right? That's right. Takano was most likely still within the city. The bridges have been blocked off, then Takano can't get out either. She's planning to take in 173 and spread it beyond the city, then she can't afford to be captured. She should still be in Okonomiya. Tomitake, I'll help too. It's dangerous. You should hide down here. Right now, Okonomiya is dangerous even for you, Tomitake. There are a lot of young people in Okonomiya. They'll be much more dangerous after handing their heart over to the demon. The Queen Carrier. If I'm not mistaken, I should have the power to calm down nearby infected. Now that you mention it, I suppose that's true. Try to be a gentleman toward me. Trying to be a gentleman toward me is less important than capturing Takano and preventing the spread of harm. Still, if anything were to happen to you, the worst possible outcome is already happening. If I were to die, things wouldn't get any worse than they already are. This situation was exactly why they had to prevent the disaster from befalling Rika. But their worst fear, a mass outbreak of level 5 symptoms, was already taking place without Rika's death. It made sense to him. Logically, the situation couldn't be worse. Besides, if Takano remained at large, it was likely that things would become even more disastrous. Either she would spread Hinamizawa syndrome throughout Japan, or this thing she called a devil would move to interfere. If they're a devil for Takano, the enemy of our enemy is our ally. You have a point there. All right. We don't have time to waste on debates. Don't stop me, Hanyu. I'm doing this to save the world, you know. Oh, looks like you're enjoying this. Let's go to find Takano. Tomitake borrowed a car parked at the clinic. In this world not dissimilar from a zombie apocalypse, a car was the same as a moving shelter, so long as no zombies sprang up from the back seat. The car was heading into Okinomiya. Rika and Hanyu were relaxing in the back seat. I was planning to wait quietly for all this to settle down and back in Hinamizawa, but I've changed my mind. If this is Takano's plot, then I have to interfere. Still, what on earth could this devil of hers be? Who knows? Maybe someone like us. Hanyu? Yes. Apparently it is someone like us. Huh? Though they had just been inside the car, it felt like their souls were floating up out of their bodies. Next thing they knew, Rika and Hanyu found themselves in a strange, dreamlike world. What was happening? That sensation. Hanyu's expression had grown solemn, like when she spoke of her past thousands of years ago. That was when something akin to mist began to flicker and coalesce into human shape. What? Who? It's someone I hope to never see again. Even the 100-year witch Rika was left bewildered, because she had never heard Hanyu utter those words before. Someone Hanyu never wanted to see again. Human-shaped mist, an inhuman being taking human form. To think we should meet again. Tamurahime no Mikoto. Leader of the Horned People, Hanyu. I have no desire to meet with you once more. I could return those exact same words. Why must I see you like this again? You aren't usually so hostile. We are enemies, refuse to accept one another. You must not trust her. I guess you monsters hate your own kind. I will not permit you to call me the same as that demon hiding her horns. Know your place, priestess of the Horned People. Rika got a sudden headache from her sharp gaze. Her hardened eyes carried not only supernatural power, but enough rejection and scorn to cause physical pain. Thinking back, Rika had only ever received constant respect. No matter how many hundreds of deaths or years she had lived through, she had never faced down such a hostile gaze before. Rika could only gulp hard in face of that. Hanyu, do you understand why I've appeared before you? What do you make of this disaster below us? Slowly, the mist cleared beneath their feet. Finally, Rika understood. They weren't inside mist, but inside a cloud. Below them was was a sight like one might see from an airplane. Without straining their eyes, they could tell the city of Okonomiya was below. Black smoke rose from various points in the city, and they could see a dark haze hanging over it. When they focused their eyes even more, they could see the people who gave their hearts over to the demons killing each other in the streets. What an awful sight. Shudder with the weight of your own sin. All of this is the work of your kind. No shame, leader of the horned people. From the perspective of humans like Rika, Takano was at fault. But from the perspective of inhuman beings like Hanyu, the disaster below was all Hanyu's fault. After all, in 173 was Hanyu. It was the horned people. Hanyu bit her bottom lip, unable to refute her claims. Takano had conducted the research to turn the horned people ferocious. Hanyu wasn't to blame for that. But that being said, these inhuman beings wouldn't allow a human to be blamed for that sin. We shall take responsibility with their own hands. You will not. That is unnecessary now. Know that your tainted horned people will not be allowed to corrupt our lands any further. It's quite the rude statement coming from someone who's as much of a monster. Silence. Know your place, child of man. You are but the priestess of the tainted horned people. Rika's head throbbed with pain again when Tamura Hime no Mikoto glanced at her. There was no doubt she was the same as Hanyu, but it was no longer even necessary to explain that the two were beings at total odds with one another. Never wish to speak to you again by any means. I, the leader of the horned people, and my priestess shall take responsibility for ending this tragedy. You will not. Go home, Tainted One. I shall take responsibility for resolving the disaster brought upon my people's lands. You should return to your land of Hinamizawa and be ashamed of your immature charges. Now begone, Hanyu and priestess. Violent shock shook her body, and the very next moment she had returned to the back seat of the car. It was all like a daydream, however it was undoubtedly real for them. That had been the cold reunion between inhuman beings after centuries or possibly even millennia. What on earth was that? Tamura Hime no Mikoto, the leader of the previous residents, who ruled these lands before we ever arrived here. I see. There's no reason you get along then. We were refugees, and it was a miracle that we finally reached this land. It was an incredible blessing to us, that we were coldly rejected by Tamura. That was something that never been recorded, even in the most ancient documents within the ritual storehouse. Truly the oldest of myths, known only to Hanyu. We wandered space for a long time in search of a place to live peacefully. Our journey so long that could drive one mad. Finally made it to this beautiful blue planet. Just what on earth are you people? I've always wondered that. Certainly not some abstract being like a god. Something that Iri and the others studied under a microscope, aren't you? The cause of the Hinamizawa syndrome was a virus, but there's no way a virus could be sentient. It seemed to be the true identity of Hanyu's horned people. Rika's guess was correct. Some science fiction stories had posed the idea that humanity is nothing more than a parasite upon Earth. So in that sense, the horned people are no different from humans. Humans are parasites upon the Earth. They are parasites upon the human brain. Which means that to the horned people, the human brain is their land. Humanity continues to destroy the environment. Then eventually it will kill the Earth and everything living upon it will die along with it. That's why humanity must be kind to Earth and strive to live in harmony with it. The same goes for the horned people. If they cannot coexist with humanity, they will cease to exist at all. In that analogy, Hinamizawa syndrome is their destruction of the environment. If the human becomes paranoid and mad, resorting to self-injury, acts of violence, or suicide, then the horned people die with them. Once her reasoning reached that point, Rika finally understood a bit of what Tamura had said at the end, calling them immature. Tamura Hime no Mikoto was most likely the leader of another supernatural parasite upon humanity. Yet aside from the Hinamizawa syndrome, she had never heard any reports of similar symptoms anywhere else in Japan, which meant that Tamura's race of people had obtained a means of coexisting peacefully with humanity. However, Hanyu's horned people had yet to obtain that same skill. That's why they were declared immature. Still, you can argue otherwise as well. Sure, there was a disaster in Onagafuchi village back in ancient times, yet they have spent many decades developing unique practices to control themselves and prevent any symptoms. But then a villain, Takano, came and interfered, intentionally conducting research to turn them into a deadly virus. This incident and Hinamizawa wasn't caused by Hanyu or the horned people. This whole commotion was caused by Takano developing N-173, a new race of ferocious horned people, and spreading them elsewhere. Doesn't look like that stubborn monster is capable of understanding. She never listens to anyone. She's always just cold and inflexible. Point of view, we're no different from the virus Takano spread and thus equally guilty. But from our perspective, it's all Takano's fault. He's the one who caused this great disaster. I won't be able to calm down until I punch that woman in the face. I just hope Tamura doesn't get in our way. It would seem the land of Hinamizawa was the land of the horned people, while all the other lands belong to Tamura's people. Just what is Tamura's people? Also, if she is also a human parasite, does that mean everyone in Japan is? We're about to come up on the town. I don't know what we'll find there, so be careful. I know. I use Oyashiro's power to make sure none of the bad people come to us. It'd be better if we never have to test that power of yours at all. Haha. Tomatake, how do you plan to hunt down Takano in a town this large? Right now, Okunomi is a dangerous town for Takano too. She's brought a handgun along, it won't be enough to really protect her. Mountain dogs were annihilated. Right now, Takano was nothing more than a lone woman. She wouldn't be able to last if she was attacked by the murderers, wandering around with their terminal symptoms. She's probably taking shelter with a colony of evacuees. It's still dizzying to think about hunting her down. If you're able to use your powers to uncover Takano, that would be perfect. Can you do it, Hanyu? If I could, I worry would be. Oh. And there possibly would be finding a means of contacting people outside of her. If we're able to contact Tokyo, then we'll have plenty of options. Reassuring thing about Tomatake is that he could act like normal, completely unfazed, even in emergencies like this. That was probably thanks to the effect of the new prophylactic Takano had administered. I don't know what Takano's thinking. Why did she let Tomatake live? She should have predicted that he'd be the most difficult adversary in this situation. Living 1,000 years, still the occasional human completely beyond comprehension. She's one of those people. True. Thing we can be sure of is that we let her have her way, then disaster will spread to all of Japan, no, all the world. I wonder if that happens, will all the monsters of this world claiming to be gods come to ream you out? Oh. Takano was going to become a god herself. There's you and that Taburakime no Mikoto. See, the human world doesn't have a say in this matter anymore. It's likely. If Hanyu is to be called a god, there must be a disturbance in their world. Humans have just been caught up in their mess. The more I think about it, the more I realized we're the only ones who can stop this incident.
Okay. So I think we're actually going to call that for today. So, though maybe we'll be able to finish it, though. I think we may be able to finish this next time. We'll have to see. So, close that down. But yeah, so we'll pick it up next Tuesday. But I want to thank you all for coming by. Appreciate it. I'm happy we could return to Hinmizawa. Clean this up. And I will see y'all next time as we continue with this.